So behavior can be a really tough situation to manage in classrooms. I mean, when you think about it, you have so many different personalities, ability levels, cultural backgrounds that it can be quite overwhelming trying to understand how to do what, when, where for your students, and who do you need to help most, who do you need to spend the most time with. And it can be, those are several questions that can be really hard to answer. We focus a lot on academics as a means of students exhibiting behavior, possibly their communities or their home lives. One of the things that we really don't focus on is, how do students need to be loved in order to exhibit the behavior that we want them to exhibit? In this video, I'm talking about one of the 5 love languages, words of affirmation. What is words of affirmation? Like, what is that? I'm glad you asked. Words of affirmation is one of the 5 love languages introduced initially by Dr. Gary Chapman. His thought process and method of introducing the love languages was to help married couples actually understand how each other likes and needs to be loved, right? We focus a lot on academics and deficits there as a means of explaining behavior as it relates to students. But what happens if we are not satisfying their love language and the way, we're not demonstrating the way that they need to be loved, right? We all know that we praise and overpraise and positively reinforce behaviors and expectations that we want to see, right, from our students. And that is great. We should. However, what if your student, if that's just what they need all the time in order to make them feel loved, feel secure, feel nurtured in your class? Remember, we want our classrooms to feel like safe spaces. We want our students to know that they can come here, that they are safe, that they are loved. We have their best interests at heart, and we will do whatever it is that we need to do in order for them to be successful in our classrooms. Do you have a student that is constantly seeking your feedback on assignments or projects or tasks that you may instruct them to complete, even though you both know that they can do this independently and they know what they're doing and it is correct, but they are constantly vying for your feedback on their assignments? Or do you have a student that if you compliment another student, they are drastically trying to get your attention to show you their work, to show you their project, to show you their whatever it is, so that you can give them that same feedback or something along that lines? Or do you have a student that gets really excited when you say something like, "Good job, you're doing very awesome. I like the way you do that. That looks great. Tell me more. I'm so excited. I can't." Do you have students that get so excited that they rush back to their desk and they work harder than they've ever worked before in order to get that feedback? If you can answer yes to those questions, that student's love language is probably words of affirmation. Very nice job on the work that you're doing. I love how you answered that. You're doing great with that. You really get this content. I love you. Have a great day. You're doing such a good job. Keep up the good work. I really like the way that you are doing this, and I really want to see you continue to do so. These are all examples of words of affirmation that you can use in your classroom. We must be really careful when a child's love language is words of affirmation, because sometimes we can unintentionally do them harm by being frustrated at something that they may do. We just may be having a bad day and we may say something out of context that would do the opposite of words of affirmation, which means to encourage. But what we may say in that moment may discourage them. So we need to be really careful, even in our frustration. So you may say something like, "Go sit down." right? Because you're trying to help other students and they're just looking for that feedback because that makes them feel loved. Be really, really careful about that. It's not that you are intentionally trying to hurt the student, but in that moment, you are overwhelmed and you're trying to service every single student in the classroom that needs your assistance. And sometimes we look at it as, if I spend all of my time saying nice things to this student or giving them feedback, then how do I have time to nurture my other students? While it can be difficult, it is not impossible. You want to set up some kind of schedule of some sort so that they can have access to those positive words that they need, that make them feel loved, that make them feel secure, and let's not forget, that makes them comply with the behavior expectations that you have set for your classroom. So it may be something as simple as, okay, listen, you have 10 problems on this worksheet. You have to solve 5. And then you can raise your hand and I will come to you, or you can come to my desk, or whatever it is that you set up for the student. But it's important to not discourage them and put that barrier up so that they can have access to the love that they need so that they can exhibit the behavior that you want. Using words of affirmation in your classroom is not something that is overly difficult to do, and it costs you nothing, right? Being able to identify these behaviors that you see will definitely help you understand what you need to do and how you need to support your students' love language, okay? Remember, sometimes the only nice words that the students are going to hear, they're going to be from you within that day. So if they're not hearing positive words that are encouraging them at home, if they're not hearing those positive words encouraging them in their communities, and they're not hearing them from you, they're never going to hear them, and therefore there's a deficit that they continue to carry around with them, and they act in a manner to get that deficit filled. Okay? So with that being said, try looking for these different things that I suggested to you in this video as it relates to love languages. Are you seeing any of these things? And what things can you put in place in your classroom to address the love language needs of your students? With that being said, be blessed. As always, be a blessing. I love you guys. Class is dismissed.